Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dev Diary, where today we continue working on our Plants vs. Zombies Cross Vampire Survivors mashup. Now, last time we started on the basics, so if you've been watching for a while now, it was a lot of retreading of familiar ground. What we ended up with was a solid foundation on which to build on, and we'll be building on that foundation today with a concentrated effort to actually mash the two games together into one. So let's take a look at the plants first. Plants have been given a reference ID, a weight value, a new boolean, and a couple new functions. These functions expand on their behavior in the ticker system from last episode. This new expansion now allows the plants to fire burst shots of multiple projectiles per cycle, as some plants do in Plants vs. Zombies. And if the code looked familiar, that's because it's a modified and improved version from my Vampire Survivors clone project. Now, multi-shot cycles are just the tip of the iceberg here, so let's move on. Our player also got new toys in the form of tools, hands, seeds, and a shovel. These tools can be selected/cycled through via mouse wheel and will be responsible for different control behaviors. For example, when the player has equipped the shovel, they can dig up previously placed plants using a new function. That function scans our plant list, finds the target plant, and sets that newly added boolean to true. This effectively allows the player to carry plants around as mobile weapons, which will fire in the direction the player is facing, thus giving the player a way to defend themselves from the looming brain-starved undead that are approaching. The concept will need work in the future, but for now the basics were in, and so let's look at the seeds tool. Equipping the seeds will allow the player to actually place new plants into the world. This entire system is likely to work similarly to the way that it did previously and in Plants vs. Zombies proper. And again, we don't have any other plant types added to our project right now, so the player can only place one type of plant. Now, with these additions, it seemed like menu navigation was going to be a factor in the gameplay in the future. So all timers and movement were converted to run on a global speed variable, allowing us to slow down time at the press of a button. Again, nothing too crazy to note of just yet, but will likely come in handy down the road. Now, as for our hand tool, it doesn't do anything at the moment. And that's it for new additions made this session. Honestly, this was more of a test run to see if this concept would even work. The idea moving forward is to take elements from Plants vs. Zombies and Vampire Survivors and use the game Atomic Crops as a guide. Now in Atomic Crops, the player is part farmer and part fighter, and so the plants fight for the player, but it's the player that ultimately needs to be protected. I think that makes for a solid baseline to work from, and so we'll be using it as a starting point. Only our gameplay will center around protecting a third-party target with the added danger of the player's mortality. So hopefully we'll end up with something just as strategic in the end, which may not be possible given I'm not very good at strategy games. But we're sure going to give it a shot. Anyway, so far we've made some interesting and promising progress. Now that I've got a better idea and direction to follow, we can hit the ground running on the rest of the content. I'm still anticipating a train wreck to occur sooner than later, but until then, let's just enjoy the ride, which will continue next time because this brings us to the end of today's Dev Diary. So if you enjoyed today's entry, consider leaving a like. Be sure to also subscribe and hit that bell if you haven't already, and let me know what you think of these changes. Are you on board for the direction that this project is going in? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.